everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of season 2 of FFS for friendship's sake.
This is basically all of our voice notes to each other turned into a podcast so that you can be a part of it and we can do this messy, chaotic, adulting thing together.
I'm Vishruta logging in from New York City today.
I'm Astha logging in from Alaska today.
So I hope you listened to episode 1. We were really glad and happy and excited about season 2. And I don't know about you, but I was just talking to a couple of my friends about episode 1, the loyal
Yeah.
friends who listened to the episode.
Yeah, what do they say?
They really liked it, and
Hey.
in fact they related to it, and they were talking about how the one thing that we said about how not everyone deserves your vulnerability really stood out to
Yeah.
them, and they were saying that it really made sense because you know sometimes you don't realize it and the hangover happens and all of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
As they were talking about it, they made me sound like, oh my god, you made so much sense. This is exactly how we should look at talking to people and opening up and stuff. And I was
Yeah.
like, you're right, but you are making me sound like I do that every day. While I just blabber everything to everyone and I call myself an open book for doing it and then fully like crib about it later. So I was a little bit like, you know what? We're saying all of this not just to like friends, but we have a whole podcast. We're recording this and putting this out. And it
Yeah.
made me think for a moment. I'm like, am I qualified to be saying this? Yes, I'm trying to. I
Yeah.
believe in what I'm saying. But am I really fully doing what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I don't know. It, I guess, manifests in different ways, but
Yeah.
it's at some level is imposter syndrome, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and then I started thinking about what other areas or times I've felt like this, and I got reminded of this one instance where at work I was setting up something from scratch, like a completely new
Yeah.
division of sorts, and I was pretty confused, right? Like
Yeah.
and I I just said I'm confused what I should do right now. There are like a couple of things I need to choose between. And someone, in fact, like from a different team, a little senior to me, and he was like, what do you mean you are confused? I didn't expect that to come from you, right? In a very like chill way. And I was
Yeah.
like, what do you mean you didn't expect that to come from me? He was like, oh, that just doesn't sound like something you'd say because you always sound like you know what you're saying. And I didn't know how to process that statement, to be honest, because it felt good to begin with, right? Because
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice because I would look up to people who sound like they know what they're doing, and I'm glad that's how I sound. But I was also like, but in my head, that's not how I sound. In my head, I'm literally like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, people are trusting me with this. What do I do? So this is how my mind is working. But
Yeah.
apparently, that's not how I'm being perceived. And that's when I was like, well, there is some sort of a cognitive dissonance between my own cognition that's happening here. Have you felt like that?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first started working, and even today, before any like new client call or something, I'm always sitting and thinking, oh my God, am I going to make sense? Do I have enough experience to be talking about these things? Am I, this person is probably more experienced, is senior to me, and I'm sitting here telling them what to do. Who's believing me? And sometimes I'm just like,
Yeah.
why are you placing so much faith in me? I don't understand. Which I really hope none of my colleagues listen to this. But there's always this sort of ounce of doubt in my mind um, whether I deserve a seat at the table, especially when I first started working. I started in a place where everybody on the table was older to me, was more experienced than me, was mostly male. So it was so difficult to get them to take me seriously and not
Mm.
look at me as some young kid who's,
Yeah.
just saying whatever's coming to her mind. And to, even though I had like, I used to go so doubly prepared, if I had to talk about data, I'd go with data from 5 sources. And I would, if I had to show some sort of report, I'd like create multiple versions of the report from different angles, because I was so scared that someone is going to be like, she's too young, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Mm.
So, uh, not
No,
just
the way
that.
you show up at work to be taken seriously is very real, right? Like, because
Yeah.
I feel like in my first job, I was younger than everyone.
Yeah.
Um, and I would always dress older to be taken more seriously. And I didn't even know I was doing that. It wasn't a very
Yeah.
conscious thing.
Very
Um,
subconscious.
yeah, but then as I read about it, there are so many different versions of it where people dress more casually to seem like, oh, they're really focused and nerdy and all
Yeah.
of that. And then there are roles where you're expected to dress up a certain way, look more
Yeah.
presentable because you work in this
Yeah.
division. That's
Where
yeah.
do you think all of this comes from? Like it's not like one day we wake up and we suddenly start doubting ourselves, right? Like when I was in school, I
Mm,
kid you not, from I think like junior KG till maybe like eighth grade,
yeah.
every single report card of mine, the remarks section that the teachers put has said us as an overconfident girl. Every single
Yeah.
year. So I couldn't have one day just woken up and been like, no, today I'm not going to be confident. So I'm wondering, where does this, and at what point does this start? Where are the roots?
I mean, at some level, I also feel like the very remark, right? Why was that a problem? Right?
Yeah.
It is, why did they decide to say us as an overconfident girl? Why didn't they just say us as confident and that's great?
Yeah.
Right? So I think at some level, I mean, it's a whole other problem if you were bullying kids. I don't know about that, but I mean, sounds about true. But honestly, I do feel like part of it also is cultural, where we're taught to be grounded, we're taught to be down to earth, but we're not really taught what is what, right? What are the things that you can take pride in? What are the things that you can blow your trumpet on? But what are the things that you need to be grounded with? So
Yeah.
I feel like in some sense, we also lose track of our growth and what
Yeah.
we've seen. So suddenly, it's not like you were just put on that table randomly, right? You
Yeah.
probably went to school for that, performed well, did that interview, impressed the people who ever hired you, which made you, go there to that
Yeah.
job and gave you a seat on that table. So I feel like, at least for me, I've realized somehow the minute that win happens, in my head, I process it as, oh, this is table stakes, everybody
Done.
does it.
Yeah. It's like check
Yeah.
over.
It's not even a done. It's not even, at that point, I'm not even thinking, oh, this is something I wanted to do and I've done it. I'm not even
Yeah.
looking at it like laundry. So it's like, yeah, because at that point, I'm like, oh, like everybody does it. And that's how I've processed every single thing in life until today, right?
Yeah.
Because and I actually have a friend who is the right opposite of it. She really takes the moments to celebrate and
Yeah.
enjoy each one of those wins, not just for her, even for me. Like some
Yeah.
days, like she'd call me when it's the first day of my job, or like when I've presented in this big meeting, or it's the last day of my job. Like she's always made sure to call me and congratulate me and talk about those things, and I've always responded with, oh, but like everyone does it, what's the big deal about it? I remember when my mom visited me here in the US. I was talking to this friend the day before, and she was like, I'm so happy for your mom to come see your house. She's gonna be so proud of, how you set up the house and
Yeah.
everything." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Like everybody who, comes to the US, studies here, is eventually going to take a place and stay
Yeah.
there. They're going to have their own place, whatever. But that's exactly how my mind was processing
Yeah,
it,
you
right? Because I was like, oh, this
normalize.
is nothing special. I've not done
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
extraordinary. But if I think back, I wanted to do this at some point. I wanted my life to be a certain way. I wanted
yeah,
to do certain things. I wanted to travel. I'm doing all of that. I'm living in places where I want to live. I'm visiting places that I want to visit. I'm being able to, pay for my parents, and that gives me joy.
yeah. Little
But
Wish would have been very proud.
yeah, and I don't think of Little Wish as often as I should. And I
Yeah.
think that's where a lot of these things stem from, that we keep looking at the
The
next
next goal. Yeah.
picture.
That reminds me, there was this when we passed like 10th grade,
Mm,
one of my friends did really well, okay?
mm,
You know what he was told? He was told, oh, kids who do academically well in school generally fail after.
mm,
And touch wood, I don't come from a family like that. My
yeah.
parents have been my loudest cheerleaders
Mm,
all my life. So when I heard that, I was just mind blown. I was like, what?
mm.
And
And
it's just,
what are they even in, like, do they not want them to do well in school, or they're
yeah,
like,
because that's also not acceptable. It's not
yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah. So I think the habit of normalizing every goal that you set for yourself
Mm,
is what eventually leads to never feeling enough, never
yeah.
feeling like you've achieved something or you deserve what you're getting.
No,
And
truly, dude, because I feel like at some level, especially in your 20s, right? I do think all of us have to go through a phase of fake it till you make it, right? With a
oh
lot of
yeah,
things, with
yeah,
with living alone, figuring out your taxes, with your career, with relationships. You don't know any of these things. You're experiencing all of this for the first time. And
yeah,
more often than not, you don't have the backing of, going back to your parents' home, or,
yeah, yeah,
having the structure of a school or college.
yeah.
A lot of things are just left to you to decide. So I I don't know. I mean, at work especially, it is hard. It's very intentional to fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's also like, sometimes it's also like, I don't want to come across as someone who's faking it too much. Because there's this advice about, like, oh, be open, say I don't know. It's important to be honest about what you don't know so that you can learn, which I understand. But
There's
how do you
also
figure
flip
out a
advice, right?
balance?
There's also this whole advice of, oh, if you don't toot your own horn, no one else will. Like,
Yeah.
like LinkedIn, the minute we talk about work and fake it till you make it, the only thought that comes to my mind is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And for years now, I have not been able to get
Hmm.
over my, I won't say hatred, but just, I think it's fear of LinkedIn because I have seen people celebrate. Okay, this one instance I remember very clearly.
Hmm.
So for a brief period, I used to handle performance marketing for a bunch
Yeah.
of brands as a freelance consultant. Okay, and I used to do Facebook, Google, everything.
Hmm.
I had a roster full of clients to set
Yeah.
the context. And I opened LinkedIn and I saw this post by a peer of mine
Hmm.
celebrating. Google has those like courses, free courses on their website.
Yeah.
This person had gone and done a basic Google Ads course
Hmm.
and put up the certificate with like such a long such a long post about how they've learned so much and now they are ready to take on. And I was just sitting there and feeling inadequate. Mind you, this is exactly my profession, and I was doing a lot more than what
Yeah.
a basic Google Ads course can teach you. But I was like, when you said, you don't want to fake it too much, I'm like, how can I go on there my own? I feel like I've set my own standards so high that
Yeah.
I can't go and talk about some basic course and be like, I have completed this. I am so
Yeah.
excited. People congratulate me. It just can't happen.
If you really think about it, I find that perception so cool that someone is actually able to like do a course, big or small, and think about it as an achievement. They wanted to do
Yeah.
it, they've done it, celebrate it, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel
Truth
like,
be told,
uh
truth be told, I really want to be that person. I
yeah,
want to be somebody who's capable of not just celebrating mine, but also looking at other people's like smaller achievements or whatever I
yeah.
am terming as smaller achievements as worth celebrating. I want to be that person.
No, I agree because I've had this conversation with a mentor of mine where I was like, can I post on LinkedIn? Like I'm, you know, in my mid to late 20s, like there are people out there who are in their 40s, have 20 years of experience, have seen a lot more.
Yeah.
Also, how can I be there and put something out and sound like this is the right thing to do? Because I don't know if it's the right thing. Nobody knows if it's the right thing
No
to
one.
do, right? How am I going to say, oh, if it's something in marketing, this is exactly how it should be done. This is exactly how a brand should be built, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing that she said stuck with me, and she mentioned that, oh, I have a 14-year-old son, and I asked him to post on LinkedIn. And and she said, because think about it, a 14-year-old's perspective only he's gonna know. So
Yeah.
if that's your audience, if someone's coming there
Yeah.
to understand how a 14-year-old is processing social media, right? He doesn't have to go out there and say this is the thing, this is the best thing to do in the world, or this is universal to everyone. But he
Yeah.
can say this is my perspective towards this. And that's exactly what you should do as a professional too. Where
Yeah.
from your experience, from your lens, from what you've seen, this
Yeah.
is what has worked for you, or this is what you think is the right way to do something. So
Yeah.
as much as it's important, and this applies to everything in work and life and everywhere, right? Nothing is universal, nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anything you say is going to work within a certain realm. Yes, define the realm. You don't have to be a universal
Yeah.
superhero. But within that realm, being confident enough to just say, this is my perspective, which is
Yeah.
yours. As long as you're
You
not
know,
hurting anyone, it's okay.
yeah, I'm sure everyone has heard this advice at some point,
Mm-hmm.
but there comes a point where you have to stop feeling cringe at your
Yeah.
own stuff. Like
Yeah.
there are so many times, especially because we're in marketing, where I have these thoughts. I'll see a campaign, I'll see an
Mm.
ad, I'll see a brand, and I'll have all these thoughts which in my head sound beautiful.
Yeah.
Like I would love to read them.
Yeah.
But I'm so scared of putting it out there on a platform like LinkedIn because I'm like there are so many people with better experience, better exposure, better education, better blah 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 blah. And what if my perspective sounds stupid? But the truth is that there is definitely two messages at any time in my LinkedIn sitting from, maybe somebody who wants to go to the college I've attended or maybe wants to follow the path that I followed,
Yeah.
asking me
Yeah.
how I did it. And sometimes I have to remind myself that, Astha, there are people just the way you want to be where someone else is. There are people who are aspiring to be where you are.
Yeah.
But I don't always remember it.
Yeah. And I totally agree. I feel like that's like not doing something that you really want to do in the fear of that coming off as cringe or stupid is one of
Yeah.
the very obvious ways in which imposter syndrome manifests itself,
Yeah.
right?
I think,
Either we hide behind and not do something at all,
yeah,
or say yes to everything, overwork, in the fear
I
of
think
being found out.
exactly.
So I think it's sort of minimizing yourself and minimizing your wins, and
Yeah.
that is the most obvious way, like imposter syndrome could attack us.
Yeah. I feel like we've, at least in my circle, everybody that I know has at some point in time, in some avenue of life, experienced this feeling. But I'm very curious to know what can we do to flip it. Like for me, one of the things that you've done a lot, like you, Jen, and all of my close friends, is, I mean, it's a cop out because I'm not really dealing with it. But every time I feel like maybe I'm not doing enough, maybe I'm not good enough at what I'm doing, etc., y'all have been the external voices to become my internal voice and tell me,
Mm.
no, you're doing a good job, or you should totally talk about this, or congratulations, or I think y'all make it seem like a bigger deal than it is, and that tends to quiet all of my internal demons.
No, I agree totally, right? Having those people who celebrate things for you and
Yeah.
celebrate your wins, and that's truly important. But as you speak about it, one thing that I found very interesting recently that I didn't know could have that kind of an effect on me is people you completely don't like they don't have any obligation to like congratulate you, or that they
Yeah.
don't love you. Like, I love you and I am going to say things
Yeah.
to you, and I'm not saying that I'm always lying to you, but there is
Yeah.
a certain sense of, oh yeah, she is
Bias.
going to do that for me, right?
Yeah.
So when that's also a reason why I feel like when you put something up on a social media platform, for example, and even with a podcast, when someone who has zero obligation to tell me something listens to the episode and
Yeah.
gives me feedback, I feel a lot more validated,
Yeah.
because I mean, you didn't have to do this, and I wasn't expecting you to do this. So you're
Yeah.
only doing it out of sheer appreciation for whatever
Probably.
I've put
Yeah.
forward.
Absolutely.
So, which means we should put stuff out more, like, right?
This is like a catch-22 situation. It's we
I
keep
know.
going round and round, but I think separating the fact that you're scared or anxious while doing something from the feeling that you're not good at it
Yeah.
is probably at the root of everything. Like, it's gonna sound really corny, but you know how Mountain Dew's tagline is "Dar ke aage jeet hai."
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so correct.
No, that's
Get over
true.
the fear.
It's so true, because I feel like I said, fearing something means you care about it.
Yeah,
And that is the perception change that's really helped me. I truly care about this.
yeah,
And it could be speaking in a meeting with a lot of people more experienced than you. I've started looking at it as a roller coaster. I'm like, see, this is going to give me an adrenaline rush.
yeah,
Like, there are so many times during a presentation, in my head, I'm choking. But people are like, oh, you did so well. And
yeah,
sometimes I've listened to the recording and I'm like, oh, I don't sound like what I sounded in my head. So
yeah.
I feel like normalizing that and actually thinking of it as a roller coaster. That's what I've been doing, right?
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, it's gonna give me an
absolutely.
adrenaline rush. I'm gonna go on top. I'm gonna feel all the anxiety, all the fear, and
Yeah.
all of that.
Chase it.
But the reward is gratifying.
Yeah, chase that change. I think for me, one thing I'm going to try to do is every time I'm in a space where I'm feeling like, do I need to be here? Am I
Yeah.
qualified? I'm going to think of it not as fear, but as excitement that I
Yeah.
get to do something that's maybe it's beyond. Okay, maybe it's beyond. I don't deserve to be there, but I'm there. So I might as
Yeah.
well make the most of it. I might as well give it my best, and then we'll see where I end up. I mean,
Yeah.
once you're in the door, what's the point of being scared? That's what I'm gonna try to tell myself every time. Your day one is never gonna be equal to someone's day 100, but unless you do day one to day 99, you're never gonna reach day 100.
Yeah. I think I would love to hear from our listeners just about, like, when was the last time you gave credit to yourself without a disclaimer, without, reasons behind it, or I did this because of this and that's why this is great.
Yeah.
Because I do that a lot.
If anyone listening is as scared of LinkedIn, particularly as I am, I hope that you listen to this and you and I together will pledge to post more about ourselves, to talk more, to be our own cheerleaders, and take up the space even if you think you don't deserve it because you're already there.
And Yet another reminder for you and everybody else. Next time you feel like a fraud or an imposter, remember at least you're self aware. You know you're anxious, you're scared, you want to improve, you know that. But there are some people out there confidently doing it wrong. Like
True.
they are my true inspirations.
Yes, I agree.
So, on that note, catch you on the next episode. And until then, have a great 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye.